In the shadowed halls of Harrow Hall, Sir Reginald Harrow is found dead, a revolver in hand, the door locked, his gold pocket watch misplaced. A suicide, they say. But Hercule Poirot sees what others miss. A scratch on the window, a smudge of wax, a forged letter. As alibis crumble and secrets unravel, family betrayal, a hidden romance, a disputed will, Poirot's little gray cells hunt a cunning killer who staged the perfect crime, but left one fatal flaw. Will the truth emerge before the murderer strikes again? Chapter 1. The Death at Harrow Hall. The late autumn sun cast a golden hue over the rolling hills of Devon, bathing Harrow Hall in a deceptive warmth. The grand estate, with its ivy-clad walls and towering chimneys, stood as a testament to the wealth and ambition of its owner, Sir Reginald Harrow, a titan of industry whose steel empire had shaped the region. Yet, on this crisp November evening of 1928, the air within the hall was thick with unease, as though the very stones sensed the tragedy about to unfold. Captain Arthur Hastings, ever the loyal companion of Hercule Poirot, stepped out of the chauffeured Rolls-Royce, adjusting his scarf against the evening chill. He glanced at the imposing oak doors of the hall, their brass fittings gleaming under the lantern light. "Quite a place, Poirot," he remarked, his breath visible in the air. Sir Reginald must be a man of considerable taste. Hercule Poirot, diminutive yet commanding, adjusted his perfectly tailored overcoat and twirled his mustache with a gloved finger. "Taste, mon ami, is not always a reflection of character," he replied, his green eyes glinting with that familiar spark of curiosity. "Harrow Hall, it is magnificent, oui, but it is what lies within that interests Poirot. The human heart, Hastings. It hides more secrets than any mansion." The invitation to Harrow Hall had come unexpectedly, delivered to Poirot's London, flat with an elegant card bearing Sir Reginald's crest. The industrialist, nearing 60, had requested Poirot's presence for a weekend gathering, citing a matter of discretion that required the detective's unique skills. Poirot, intrigued by the vagueness of the request, had accepted, bringing Hastings along for what he hoped would be a stimulating diversion from the monotony of city life. As they entered the grand foyer, a chandelier cast prisms of light across the marble floor, illuminating portraits of stern-faced Harrow ancestors. A butler, impeccably dressed, greeted them with a bow. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, welcome to Harrow Hall. Sir Reginald awaits you in the drawing room." They were led through a maze of corridors adorned with tapestries and polished oak, the scent of beeswax and old money lingering in the air. The drawing room was a study in opulence, velvet drapes, a roaring fireplace, and a grand piano in the corner. A small group had gathered, their faces a mixture of curiosity and tension as they turned to regard the newcomers. Sir Reginald Harrow stood by the fireplace, a tall man with a shock of silver hair and a commanding presence. His eyes, sharp and assessing, softened slightly as he approached. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, a pleasure," he said, his voice resonant with authority. "I trust your journey was pleasant?" "Most agreeable, Sir Reginald," Poirot replied, inclining his head. "Your home, it is a marvel of symmetry and order, but I sense perhaps that all is not so orderly within." A flicker of surprise crossed Sir Reginald's face, quickly masked. "Perceptive as ever, Mr. Poirot. We shall discuss matters privately after dinner. For now, allow me to introduce my family and guests." The introductions followed with practiced civility. Lady Eleanor Harrow, Sir Reginald's second wife, was a striking woman in her early 40s, her auburn hair swept into an elegant chignon. Her smile was polite, but her eyes darted nervously, betraying a restless energy. Victor Harrow, Sir Reginald's son from his first marriage, was a lean man of 30, with a sullen demeanor and a glass of whiskey already in hand. Clara Beaumont, Reginald's niece, was a quiet beauty of 25, her delicate features framed by soft curls, though her gaze held a guarded intensity. Dr. Frederick Langley, the family physician, was a wiry man with a practiced calm, his spectacles glinting as he nodded politely. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, hovered at the edge of the group, her severe expression softened by a deferential nod. Finally, Mr. Charles Thornton, a business associate of Sir Reginald's, exuded a forced joviality that seemed at odds with the room's tension. Dinner was a lavish affair, served in a dining room that could have graced a palace. Crystal glasses sparkled under the candlelight, and the aroma of roasted pheasant filled the air. Yet the conversation was stilted, punctuated by awkward silences. Victor's barbed remarks about his father's business decisions drew sharp glances from Lady Eleanor, while Clara picked at her food, her thoughts elsewhere. Thornton, attempting to lighten the mood, regaled the table with tales of his travels, but his laughter rang hollow. Poirot, ever observant, noted the undercurrents. "Sir Reginald," he said, sipping his wine, "you have built an empire of steel, yet your family, they seem preoccupied. Is there perhaps a matter that weighs upon the heart of Harrow Hall?" Sir Reginald's fork paused mid-air. "You cut to the chase, Mr. Poirot. Let us say there are complications. I shall explain in my study after dinner." His tone was final, discouraging further probing. The meal concluded, and Sir Reginald excused himself, promising to meet Poirot in his study at 10 o'clock. The guests dispersed, Lady Eleanor to the drawing room, Victor to the billiard room, Clara to her quarters, and Thornton to the library. Dr. Langley murmured something about checking his medical bag, while Mrs. Finch oversaw the clearing of the table. Hastings, sensing Poirot's restlessness, suggested a stroll in the gardens, but Poirot declined. "Non, Hastings. I prefer to observe. The atmosphere here, it is like a storm gathering. Something is amiss, and Poirot will discover what." At precisely 10, Poirot and Hastings made their way to Sir Reginald's study, a heavy oak door at the end of a quiet corridor. Poirot knocked, but there was no response. He knocked again, louder, then tried the handle. It was locked. "Odd," Hastings muttered. "He said 10 o'clock, didn't he?" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Oui, and Sir Reginald, he is a man of precision. This silence, it is not natural." He rapped sharply on the door, calling out, "Sir Reginald, it is Poirot." Still no answer. A chill ran through Hastings as Poirot's expression grew grave. "We must gain entry, Hastings. Fetch the butler at once." The butler, Mr. Grayson, arrived with a ring of keys, his face pale. "Sir Reginald often locks the study when working." "Late," he explained, fumbling with the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a scene that froze them all. Sir Reginald Harrow lay slumped over his mahogany desk, a revolver in his right hand, a crimson stain spreading across his shirt. The air was acrid with the scent of gunpowder. A single lamp cast a harsh glow, illuminating papers scattered across the desk and a pocket watch resting curiously on the left side, its chain tangled. "Good Lord!" Hastings gasped, stepping forward. He's dead." Poirot held up a hand, his voice calm but firm. "Do not touch, Hastings. The scene, it must remain undisturbed." He circled the room, his eyes scanning every detail. The locked window, the undisturbed carpet, the faint scratch near the window frame. Then his gaze settled on the pocket watch, its gold surface catching the light. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, leaning closer. "This watch, it is not where it should be." Hastings frowned. "What do you mean? It's just a watch, Poirot." Non, Hastings. To Sir Reginald, a watch is not merely a watch, it is a habit, a ritual. He was right-handed, was he? Not? Yet the watch lies on the left side of the desk. This is not an accident, this is a clue. Grayson, trembling, stammered, "Sir, do you think murder?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "That we shall determine. Call the police and summon the household. No one leaves Harrow Hall until Poirot has spoken with them." Within the hour, the local constabulary arrived, led by Inspector Japp, a familiar face to Poirot and Hastings. Japp surveyed the scene, his mustache twitching. "Looks like suicide, Poirot. Gun in hand, door locked, no signs of a struggle. Poor chap must have been under pressure." Poirot shook his head. "Non, Inspector. The surface, it deceives. Observe the watch." Sir Reginald, he always carried it in his right pocket, as the butler confirms. Why then is it on the left? And this scratch by the window, it suggests an entry, perhaps. Japp scoffed. You and your fancies, Poirot. The window's locked tight, and the key was in Sir Reginald's pocket. Suicide's the simplest explanation. Simplicity, mon ami, is the enemy of truth, Poirot retorted. We must question the household. The clue, it is here, and Poirot will find it. The household gathered in the drawing room, their faces a tableau of shock, grief, and suspicion. Lady Eleanor clutched a handkerchief, her eyes red but dry. Victor paced, his jaw tight. Clara sat motionless, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Dr. Langley offered calm reassurances, while Mrs. Finch stood rigidly by the door. Thornton, oddly, subdued, avoided eye contact. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady. Mesdames et messieurs, Sir Reginald Harrow is dead, and the circumstances, they are not as they seem. Each of you was in this house at the time of his death. I, Hercule Poirot, will uncover the truth, and I begin with this. Who last saw Sir Reginald alive? Lady Eleanor spoke first, her voice brittle. I saw him at dinner. He seemed distracted, but himself. He went to his study afterward. Victor snorted. Distracted? He was always distracted, buried in his work. I was at the pub in the village until 9:30. Didn't see him after dinner. Clara's voice was soft. I was in my room reading. I heard nothing unusual. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. I was tending to a patient in the village until 10. I returned just after the discovery. Mrs. Finch nodded. I was in the kitchen, overseeing his staff. Sir Reginald didn't call for me. Thornton cleared his throat. I was in the library catching up on correspondence. I heard a noise around Chapter 2. The Gathering of Suspects. The morning after Sir Reginald Harrow's death cast a pall over Harrow Hall, the mist clinging to the Devon hills like a shroud. Inside, the grand estate buzzed with a subdued tension, the servants moving, with hushed steps, their eyes darting nervously as they whispered of murder. The dining room, where breakfast had been served only hours ago, was now a stage for Hercule Poirot's first formal inquiry. The household gathered, summoned by the detective's quiet authority, their faces a mixture of dread, curiosity, and defiance. Captain Hastings stood by Poirot's side, his notebook open, ready to capture every word, though he suspected Poirot's little gray cells would miss nothing. Poirot stood at the head of the long mahogany table, his small frame commanding the room with an air of calm precision. His mustache was immaculate, his suit pressed to perfection, and his green eyes scanned the assembled group with the intensity of a hawk. Mesdames et messieurs, he began, his voice soft yet resonant. The death of Sir Reginald Harrow is no simple tragedy. The police, they believe it's suicide, but Poirot, he sees what others do not. A clue overlooked by all but me suggests murder. And so we begin. Each of you, you were here last night. Each of you, you have a story. And I, Hercule Poirot, will hear them all. The room stirred. Lady Eleanor Harrow, seated nearest the fireplace, adjusted her black shawl, her auburn hair catching the light. Her lips were tight, her eyes flickering with something Hastings couldn't quite place. Grief, perhaps, or fear. Victor Harrow, slouched in his chair, swirled a glass of brandy despite the early hour, his sullen expression barely masking his resentment. Clara Beaumont, Sir Reginald's niece, sat with her hands folded, her delicate features pale but composed, though her eyes avoided Poirot's gaze. Dr. Frederick Langley, the family physician, polished his spectacles, his calm demeanor betraying a faint unease. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, stood near the door, her severe bun and starched apron giving her the air of a sentinel. Charles Thornton, the business associate, forced a smile, his joviality strained under the weight of the moment. Hastings scribbled their names, noting their postures, their glances. Quite a cast, Poirot, he murmured. They're all on edge. Naturellement, Hastings, Poirot replied softly. When death enters a house, it brings with it suspicion. Now let us see who hides what. Poirot turned to Lady Eleanor first. Madame Harrow, you were the last to see your husband at dinner, oui? Tell me, how did he seem? Lady Eleanor's fingers tightened on her shawl. Reginald was himself, preoccupied perhaps with business matters. He spoke little, but that was not unusual. He retired to his study after dessert, as he often did. And you, madame, where were you at 10 o'clock when the shot was heard? I was in the drawing room reading. Alone. Her voice was steady, but her eyes flicked to Victor, who snorted softly. Alone, mother? Convenient, Victor muttered, earning a sharp glance from Clara. Poirot's smile was polite but probing. And you, Monsieur Victor, where were you at this critical hour? Victor leaned back, his jaw tight. In the village, at the Red Lion. Had a few drinks, lost track of time. Got back around 9:30, maybe 10. Didn't see father after dinner. Poirot's eyebrows rose. The Red Lion, you say? And there are witnesses to confirm this? Plenty, Victor said, though his tone lacked conviction. Ask the barman, Tom. He'll tell you. Bon. We shall verify. Poirot turned to Clara, his expression softening. Mademoiselle Beaumont, you are the niece, oui? A favorite of Sir Reginald, I am told. Where were you at 10 o'clock? Clara's voice was soft, almost a whisper. In my room, reading. I heard nothing until the commotion when Mr. Grayson opened the study. Poirot nodded, his gaze lingering on her. And you saw nothing unusual? No one near the study, perhaps? No, Mr. Poirot. I kept to myself. Dr. Langley cleared his throat, adjusting his spectacles. If I may, Mr. Poirot, I was in the village tending to old Mrs. Carter. She's been poorly, and I was there until just after 10. I returned to find the house in an uproar. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A doctor's duties, they are most noble. And you returned directly to Harrow Hall? Yes, straight away. I heard the news from Grayson as soon as I arrived. Mrs. Finch, her hands clasped tightly, spoke next. I was in the kitchen, sir, overseeing the staff. We were cleaning up after dinner. I didn't leave until the butler called us about Sir Reginald. And you, Monsieur Thornton? Poirot turned to the business associate, whose smile faltered. In the library, catching up on letters, Thornton said, his voice overly cheerful. Heard a noise around 10. Thought it was a car backfiring. Didn't think much of it until the shouting started. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. A most interesting collection of alibis. Each of you were occupied. Yet no one saw or heard anything of consequence except perhaps a noise. And yet Sir Reginald lies dead and his pocket watch, it lies where it should not. Tell me, who among you noticed this watch last night? The question drew blank stares. Lady Eleanor frowned. His watch? I don't recall. He always carried it, I suppose. Victor shrugged. Didn't notice. Father was obsessed with that thing, always checking the time. Clara hesitated. I saw him check it at dinner. It was gold with an engraving. He seemed particular about it. Dr. Langley nodded. Yes, I recall him checking it too. He was always punctual. Mrs. Finch added, It was a gift from his late brother, sir. Never parted with it. Thornton waved a hand. Not my concern, watches, too fiddly. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Merci. Your answers, they are most revealing. Now I must ask you to remain at Harrow Hall until the police and I have completed our inquiries. The truth it will not hide from Hercule Poirot. As the group dispersed, Hastings leaned close. Poirot, they all seem plausible, don't they? No one admits to being near the study, and yet you're convinced it's murder. Plausible, oui, but truth is not always plausible, Hastings. Poirot replied, his eyes gleaming. The watch, it is the key. It was moved, and not by Sir Reginald. Someone in this room knows more than they say. The morning unfolded with Poirot and Hastings retracing the events of the previous night. They returned to the study, now cordoned off by Inspector Japp's men. The room was as they had left it. The mahogany desk, the scattered papers, the revolver now bagged as evidence, and the pocket watch, still on the left side, its gold surface catching the gray light filtering through the window. Jap, puffing on a pipe, greeted them with a sigh. "Poirot, you're wasting your time. The coroner's report will confirm suicide. Gunshot to the chest, powder burns on his hand, locked room. What more do you want?" Poirot knelt by the desk, examining the watch without touching it. "What I want, Inspector, is the truth. This watch, it belonged to a man of habit. Right-handed, oui, yet it lies on the left. And this scratch by the window, fresh, deliberate. Someone entered this room, Jap, and they left their mark." Jap shook his head. "You're seeing ghosts, Poirot. The window's locked and the key was in Harrow's pocket. No one could have got in without breaking the glass." "Précisément," Poirot said, his voice soft but firm. "And yet the scratch exists. And the wax. Did you notice the wax, Inspector?" Jap frowned. "Wax? What wax?" Poirot pointed to a faint smudge on the floor near the window. "Candle wax, mon ami. The study has electric lights, yet someone used a candle." "Why?" Jap scoffed. "Maybe Harrow was feeling romantic." Poirot's smile was patient. "Romance does not explain murder. We must search the house, the grounds, the shed. There is evidence, and Poirot will find it." They began with the gardener's shed, a weathered structure behind the rose garden. The gardener, an elderly man named Mr. Evans, showed them a collection of tools, pruning shears, a trowel, a small crowbar. Poirot examined the crowbar, noting its tip. "This, Hastings, could make a scratch like the one by the window. We must test it." Evans protested. "That crowbar's been here all week." "Sir, no one's touched it." "Perhaps," Poirot said, "but we shall see." Back in the house, Poirot questioned the maids, learning that a candle stub had been found in the kitchen rubbish bin that morning. Discarded in haste, perhaps, Poirot mused. The killer. They did not expect Poirot to notice such a detail. The lawyer, Mr. Pembroke, arrived at noon, a dour man with a briefcase clutched tightly. In the library, he revealed the details of Sir Reginald's will. "The bulk of the estate goes to Miss Clara Beaumont," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Smaller sums to Victor and Lady Eleanor. Sir Reginald changed it a month ago, citing Clara's promise and loyalty." Victor, who had joined them, slammed a fist on the table. Loyalty. She wormed her way into his favor. Father was blind to her schemes. Clara, entering quietly, overheard. "That's not true, Victor. Uncle Reginald believed in me, that's all." Poirot raised a hand. "Peace, please, monsieur." "Pembroke, was anyone else aware of this change?" Pembroke hesitated. "I informed Sir Reginald's family last week at his request. It caused some tension." "Understatement of the century," Victor muttered. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Tension, oui. And tension, it leads to desperate acts. Merci, Monsieur Pembroke." As the day progressed, Poirot and Hastings interviewed each suspect further, peeling back layers of their stories. Lady Eleanor admitted to financial strain, her lavish lifestyle outpacing her allowance. Victor's alibi at the Red Lion wavered. Tom, the barman, recalled him leaving at 9, not 10. Clara confessed. Chapter 3. The Misplaced Clue. The mist that cloaked Harrow Hall on the second morning of Sir Reginald Harrow's death seemed to thicken, as though the estate itself were conspiring to guard its secrets. The air was heavy with the scent of damp, earth and fading roses, and the grand house with its ivy-draped walls and towering chimneys loomed like a silent witness to the tragedy within. Hercule Poirot, ever meticulous, stood in the study where Sir Reginald's body had been found, his gloved hands clasped behind his back, his green eyes fixed on the gold pocket watch that lay incongruously on the left side of the mahogany desk. Captain Hastings at his side shifted uneasily, his notebook open but his pen idle, sensing the weight of Poirot's focus. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice low but resonant. "This watch, it is the heart of the mystery. Sir Reginald, he was a man of habit, of precision. Right-handed, oui. Always the watch in his right pocket, as the butler confirms. Yet here it lies on the left. This is not a mistake of Sir Reginald's making. It is a clue, Hastings, and it is the clue everyone missed." Hastings frowned, peering at the watch. Its gold surface gleamed under the gray light filtering through the locked window, its chain tangled in a careless loop. "I don't see it, Poirot, it's just a watch. Perhaps he dropped it or someone moved it after finding him." Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "Dropped? No, no. A man about to end his life does not misplace his cherished possessions. And moved? The scene was untouched until we entered. No, Hastings, this watch was placed here by another hand, one that did not know Sir Reginald's habits. It is a sign of haste, of error, and Poirot, he will uncover its meaning. The study was as they had left it the previous night, save for the absence of Sir Reginald's body, now with the coroner. The revolver had been bagged by Inspector Japp's men, but the desk remained a tableau of the crime. Scattered papers, an inkwell, a fountain pen, and the watch, its face stopped at 10 minutes past 10, the approximate time of death. Poirot circled the desk, his steps measured, his eyes darting from the watch to the window, where a faint scratch marred the frame. The wax smudge on the floor, noticed yesterday, was still there, a subtle but stubborn clue. Poirot, Hastings, ventured, "You keep harping on this watch, but what about the locked door?" The key was in Sir Reginald's pocket. How could anyone get in? Poirot paused, his finger tracing the air as if sketching the room's layout. "The door. It is locked, oui. The key, it is found. But the window, Hastings, it speaks. This scratch, it is fresh. A tool, perhaps a crowbar, was used to pry it open. And the wax, it suggests a candle, used in darkness. Why a candle, when the study has electric lights? Because the killer, they wished to avoid detection." Hastings rubbed his chin. "So you're saying someone climbed in, shot Sir Reginald, staged it as suicide, and climbed out again? But the window was locked from the inside." "Précisément," Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. "And that, mon ami, is why we must examine every detail. The truth, it hides in the smallest things." Their conversation was interrupted by Inspector Japp's arrival, his heavy footsteps echoing in the corridor. "Morning, Poirot," he said, puffing on his pipe. "Still chasing your watch theory? The coroner's preliminary report is in. Gunshot to the chest, powder burns on Harrow's hand. Suicide, plain as day." Poirot shook his head. "Plain, Inspector? Nothing is plain when a man's life is taken. The watch, it tells a different story. And this scratch, have you had it examined?" Japp sighed. "I had a man look at it. Probably just wear and tear. You're making mountains out of molehills, Poirot. Mountains perhaps, but built on truth." Poirot replied. "Come, we must speak to the household again. The watch, it was seen by some last night. We shall learn who and why." They returned to the drawing room, where the household had gathered once more, their faces drawn with fatigue and suspicion. Lady Eleanor sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. Victor slouched in an armchair, his eyes bloodshot, a fresh glass of whiskey in hand. Clara Beaumont perched on a sofa, her hands folded tightly, her expression unreadable. Dr. Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting as he watched the room. Mrs. Finch hovered by the door, her posture rigid, while Charles Thornton, the business associate, paced nervously, his forced cheer replaced by unease. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. "Mesdames et messieurs, we return to the night of Sir Reginald's death. The pocket watch, it is of particular interest. Who among you saw it last and where?" Lady Eleanor spoke first, her voice clipped. "I told you, Mr. Poirot, I don't recall. Reginald always had it, but I didn't notice it specifically." Victor snorted. "Father was never without it. Gold, engraved, a gift from Uncle Henry. He checked it constantly like it ruled his life." Clara's voice was soft. "I saw him, with it at dinner. He took it out to check the time just before he left for the study. It was in his right pocket, as always." Dr. Langley nodded. "I noticed it too. He glanced at it during dessert, around 9. Mrs. Finch, her lips tight, added, "Sir Reginald was particular about that watch, sir. Never left it lying about. It was always in his pocket or on his person. Thornton shrugged. Didn't pay attention. Watches aren't my thing. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Most interesting. Mademoiselle Clara, you say it was in his right pocket. Yet it was found on the left side of the desk. How do you explain this? Clara hesitated, her cheeks flushing. I can't. Perhaps he placed it there himself. No, Poirot said firmly. Sir Reginald, he was a man of order. To place his watch so carelessly, it is not in his character. Someone else moved it, and that someone made a mistake. The room fell silent, the weight of Poirot's words settling over them. Hastings scribbled furiously, noting the reactions. Lady Eleanor's tightened grip, Victor's scowl, Clara's averted gaze, Langley's calm facade, Mrs. Finch's stiff posture, Thornton's nervous pacing. Poirot continued, pacing slowly. Let us consider the evening once more. Dinner ends at 9. Sir Reginald retires to his study. At 10 a shot is heard, or so Mr. Thornton believes, mistaking it for a car. By 10:30 the body is found, the door locked, the key in Sir Reginald's pocket. The watch, it is misplaced. The window, it bears a scratch. And the wax, it suggests a candle. Who among you used a candle last night? Blank stares met his question. Lady Eleanor shook her head. The house is fully electric, Mr. Poirot. We've no need for candles. Victor smirked. Maybe father was feeling nostalgic. Clara frowned. I had no candle. I was in my room, with a lamp. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. None in the village either. Mrs. Carter's cottage has electricity. Mrs. Finch spoke up. The staff don't use candles, sir. Not since the new wiring was installed. Thornton shrugged. Library's got lamps. No candles there. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Yet wax was found near the window. A small detail, but Poirot misses nothing. We shall return to this. He dismissed the group, but asked Clara to remain. As the others filed out, Hastings whispered, Why her, Poirot? She seems the least likely. Least likely, Hastings? Or simply the most guarded? Mademoiselle Clara, she sees more than she says, and her uncle, he trusted her. Let us learn why. Clara sat, her hands clasped, her eyes wary. What do you want to know, Mr. Poirot? Your uncle, mademoiselle, he favored you in his will. Why? Clara's lips trembled. He believed in me. I wanted to study art, to make something of myself. He saw potential, not just duty like Victor or Aunt Eleanor. And this caused tension, we? Yes, she admitted. Victor was furious. He thought I'd manipulated Uncle Reginald, but I didn't. I loved him. Poirot nodded. And this artist, James Carver, your fiancé, he was not approved by Sir Reginald? Clara's eyes widened. How did you? No, Uncle disapproved. He thought James was after my inheritance. But James loves me, Mr. Poirot. Love. It is a powerful motive, Poirot said softly. Merci, mademoiselle. You may go. As Clara left, Hastings shook his head. Poor girl. She's caught in the middle of all this. Perhaps, Poirot said. Or perhaps she plays a part we do not yet see. Come, Hastings. We must examine the grounds. They ventured outside, the mist dampening their coats as they approached the study window. Poirot knelt, inspecting the scratch more closely. A crowbar, I am certain, he said, pointing to the precise mark. And here, another trace of wax on the sill. The killer, they entered here in darkness with a candle. Hastings squinted. But how did they lock the window after leaving? A question, Poirot said. Perhaps a second key or a trick of the latch. We shall investigate. They moved to the gardener's shed where Mr. Evans, the gardener, awaited. The crowbar was still there, its tip matching the scratch's width. Evans insisted no one had used it, but Poirot noted a faint smudge on the handle. Wax again. The, killer, they were careless, Poirot murmured. Back inside, Poirot questioned the maids again. One, a young girl named Lily, admitted to finding the candle stub in the bin. "It was odd, sir," she said. "We don't use candles, but I didn't think much of it." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And where was this bin?" "By the back door, sir, near the kitchen. Near the path to the shed," Poirot said. "Most interesting." The day wore on with further inquiries. Poirot learned that Victor's alibi was weaker than claimed. Tom, the barman, confirmed Reginald about money. Chapter 4. The Locked Room. Puzzle. The fourth morning at Harrow Hall dawned with a chill that seeped into the bones, the Devon mist curling around the estate like a spectral embrace. The grand house, with its towering chimneys and ivy-clad walls, stood resolute, yet its halls echoed with the unease of a mystery unresolved. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his morning suit, stood before the study window, where Sir Reginald Harrow had met his end, his green eyes fixed on the faint scratch that marred the frame. Captain Hastings, ever at his side, clutched his notebook, his breath visible in the cold air as he watched Poirot's meticulous scrutiny. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice a soft murmur against the morning's silence. "This window, it is the key to the locked room. The door, it was locked, the key in Sir Reginald's pocket. Yet this scratch, it speaks of intrusion. And the watch, the watch. It betrays the killer's error." Hastings shivered, pulling his coat tighter. "I still don't see it, Poirot. The window's locked tight from the inside. How could anyone get in without breaking the glass? And the watch? Surely it's just a detail." Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "A detail, Hastings?" No. In the hands of Hercule Poirot, a detail is a beacon of truth. The watch, placed on the left side of the desk, is not where Sir Reginald would leave it. Right-handed, a man of habit, he kept it in his right pocket. Someone else placed it there, in haste or ignorance, and this window observed the scratch. It is fresh, made with a tool. The killer, they entered here. They were interrupted by the arrival of Inspector Japp, his heavy boots crunching on the gravel path. "Morning, Poirot," he said, puffing on his pipe. "Still on about that. Watch. The coroner's report is final. Gunshot to the chest, powder burns on Harrow's hand, no signs of a struggle. Suicide, plain and simple." Poirot turned, his eyes gleaming. "Simple, Inspector? Nothing is simple when a life is taken. The watch, the scratch, the wax on the floor, these are not the marks of suicide. They are the marks of murder." Japp sighed, his breath clouding in the air. "You're chasing shadows, Poirot. The window's locked, the latch secure. I had my men check it. No tampering, no forced entry. And the key was in Harrow's pocket. How do you explain that?" Poirot gestured to the window. "The latch, it is locked now, oui. But what if it was not? The scratch suggests a tool, a crowbar perhaps, used to pry it open." "And the wax, Inspector? Did you examine the wax?" Japp frowned. "Wax again? You mentioned it yesterday. What's a bit of wax got to do with anything?" Poirot knelt, pointing to the faint smudge on the windowsill. "This, mon ami, is candle wax. The study, it has electric lights, yet a candle was used." "Why?" "Because the killer, they worked in darkness to avoid detection. They entered through this window, shot Sir Reginald, staged the scene, and left, locking the window behind them. But they made mistakes, the watch, the wax, the scratch." Hastings scribbled in his notebook, his brow furrowed. "But Poirot, how did they lock the window from outside? That's impossible, isn't it?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Impossible? No, Hastings. Difficult, perhaps, but not impossible. A trick, a device, a second key. There are ways. We must find the how, and we will find the who." They returned to the house where the household had gathered in the drawing room, their faces drawn with fatigue and suspicion. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat by the fire, her black dress a stark contrast to her pale complexion, her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. Victor Harrow slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Clara Beaumont perched on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting as he watched the room. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, hovered by the door, her posture rigid. Charles Thornton paced, his forced joviality replaced by nervous energy. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, we return to the night of Sir Reginald's death. The study, it was locked, the key in his pocket. Yet the window bears a scratch and a trace of wax suggests a candle. Who among you can explain these? Lady Eleanor's lips tightened. A candle? The house is fully electric, Mr. Poirot. We've no need for candles. Victor snorted. Maybe Father was planning a séance. Clara's voice was soft. I had no candle, Mr. Poirot. My room has a lamp, and I was there all evening. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. I was in the village, as I said. Mrs. Carter's cottage has electricity, no candles there. Mrs. Finch spoke up. The staff don't use candles, sir. Not since the new wiring. Thornton shrugged. Library's got lamps, no candles. For me. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Yet wax was found near the window. And the scratch. It is fresh. Made with a tool. Someone entered that study, and they left these traces. Let us speak of the watch again. Mademoiselle Clara, you saw it. In Sir Reginald's right pocket at dinner, oui? Clara nodded, her cheeks flushing. Yes. He checked it just before he left for the study. And you, Madame Harrow? Poirot turned to Lady Eleanor. I don't recall, she said, her voice brittle. He always had it, but I didn't notice it specifically. Victor smirked. Father was obsessed with that watch, never let it out of his sight. Dr. Langley nodded. I saw him check it during dessert. He was particular about time. Mrs. Finch added, It was a gift from his brother, sir. Gold, with an engraving. He cherished it. Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Watches aren't my thing. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. Most interesting. The watch. It was in Sir Reginald's right pocket at dinner, yet found on the left side of the desk. This is not the act of a man preparing for suicide. It is the act of another, staging the scene. And the window, with its scratch and wax, it tells us the killer entered from outside. The room fell silent, the weight of Poirot's words settling over them. Hastings noted the reactions. Lady Eleanor's tightened grip, Victor's scowl, Clara's averted gaze, Langley's calm facade, Mrs. Finch's stiff posture, Thornton's nervous pacing. Poirot continued, Let us reconstruct the evening once more. Dinner ends at 9. Sir Reginald retires to his study. At 10, a shot is heard, or so Monsieur Thornton believes, mistaking it for a car. By 10:30, the body is found, the door locked, the key in Sir Reginald's pocket. The watch is misplaced, the window scratched, the wax present. Who among you was near the study at 10? Blank stares met his question. Lady Eleanor shook her head. I was in the drawing room, as I said. Victor shrugged. Still at the Red Lion or on my way back? Clara's voice trembled. In my room, reading. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. With Mrs. Carter, in the village. Mrs. Finch nodded. In the kitchen with the staff. Thornton hesitated. Library, writing letters. I heard the noise but stayed put. Poirot's smile was patient. Merci. Your answers, they are consistent yet not convincing. We shall verify. For now, remain at Harrow Hall. The truth, it will not escape Poirot. As the group dispersed, Hastings leaned close. Poirot, they're sticking to their stories. But that window, how could anyone lock it from outside? Poirot's eyes gleamed. A question, oui. Perhaps a string, a wire, a clever manipulation of the latch. We must examine the window further. They returned to the study, where Poirot inspected the window latch closely. It was a simple mechanism, a brass lever that secured the frame. He ran his finger along the edge, pausing at a faint groove barely visible. Hastings observed, this groove, it suggests something was pulled through, perhaps to manipulate the latch from outside. Hastings squinted. A string? But wouldn't that leave a mark? Précisément, Poirot said. And it did. This groove, it is our evidence. The killer, they were clever, but not clever enough. They ventured to the gardener's shed where the crowbar remained. Poirot examined it again, noting the wax smudge on the handle. This tool, it made the scratch, and the wax, it links, to the candle. The killer, they used both. Mr. Evans, the gardener, protested. That crowbar's been here, sir. No one's touched it. Poirot smiled. Perhaps, Monsieur Evans. But we shall see. Back inside, Poirot questioned the maid, Lily, about the candle stub. She confirmed finding it in the bin by the back door near the path to the shed. It was odd, sir, she said. We don't use candles, but I didn't think to mention it. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And this bin, it is emptied daily? Yes, sir, first thing in the morning. So the candle was used last night, Poirot said. Most interesting. The day unfolded with further inquiries. Poirot learned that Victor's alibi was shakier still. Tom, the barman, confirmed. He left the Red Lion at 8:40, not 9:30. Lady Eleanor admitted to a heated argument with Sir Reginald about her spending, days before his death. Clara's secret engagement to James Carver was confirmed by a letter found in her room, expressing her fear of Sir Reginald's disapproval. Dr. Langley's visit to Mrs. Carter was verified, but her vague timing left a gap. Mrs. Finch's loyalty to Sir Reginald bordered on obsession, her disdain for Lady Eleanor clear. Thornton's business dispute with Sir Reginald was deeper than he'd admitted, involving a substantial financial loss. By evening, Poirot stood in the garden, gazing at the study window. Hastings, he said, the locked room, it is no longer a mystery. The window was the entry, the latch manipulated. The watch, the wax, the scratch, they point to a killer who planned, but not perfectly. Tomorrow, we pursue the motive. Money, love, revenge, one of these drove the act. Hastings frowned. But Poirot. Chapter 5. Secrets of the Will. The fifth day at Harrow Hall broke with a sky heavy with clouds, the Devon landscape shrouded in a gloom that mirrored the tension within the estate. The grand house, its ivy-clad walls and towering chimneys standing, resolute against the drizzle, seemed to hold its breath, as if awaiting the revelation of its secrets. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his tailored suit, stood in the library, surrounded by shelves of leather-bound volumes and the faint scent of old paper. His green eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned the room, but his mind was fixed on the pocket watch, the wax, and the scratch, clues that pointed to a murder disguised as suicide. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, stood nearby, his notebook open, his pen poised, though he sensed Poirot's little gray cells were already weaving the threads of the mystery. Mon ami, Poirot said, his voice a quiet murmur. The will of Sir Reginald Harrow, it is the heart of this affair. Money, it drives men and women to desperate acts. And this watch, always the watch, it tells us the killer made a mistake. We must learn who benefits and who resents. Hastings nodded, though his brow furrowed. The will, Poirot? You think it's about the inheritance, but the watch, how does it fit? Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. The watch, Hastings, it is the error of one who did not know Sir Reginald's habits. Right-handed, he kept it in his right pocket, yet it was found on the left side of the desk. This is not chance. It is a clue, overlooked by all but Poirot. And the will. It reveals the motives that lurk in this house. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Pembroke, the family lawyer, a dour man with a pinched face and a briefcase clutched tightly. He entered the library, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet, and set his case on the table. Mr. Poirot, he said, adjusting his glasses, you requested details of Sir Reginald's will. I've brought the documents as instructed. Merci, Monsieur Pembroke, Poirot said, gesturing to a chair. Please enlighten us. Who inherits the fortune of Harrow Hall? Pembroke opened his briefcase, withdrawing a sheaf of papers. Sir Reginald revised his will a month ago. The bulk of his estate, Harrow Hall, the steelworks, and the majority of his investments, goes to his niece, Miss Clara Beaumont. Smaller sums are allocated to his son, Victor Harrow, and his wife, Lady Eleanor. There are also provisions for the staff, notably Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper. Hastings scribbled furiously, glancing up. Clara gets the lot? That must have ruffled feathers. Pembroke's lips tightened. Indeed, Captain Hastings. Sir Reginald informed his family of the change last week at my suggestion. It caused considerable tension. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Tension? Oui. Tell me, who was present when this news was shared? Lady Eleanor, Victor, and Clara, Pembroke said. Dr. Langley was also there, as he'd come to check on Sir Reginald's health. Mrs. Finch was in the room serving tea. Mr. Thornton, the business associate, was not present. And their reactions? Poirot pressed. Pembroke hesitated. Victor was furious. He accused Clara of manipulating his father. Lady Eleanor was restrained but clearly displeased. Clara seemed surprised, almost uncomfortable. Dr. Langley offered no opinion, and Mrs. Finch said nothing, though she looked troubled. Poirot nodded, his fingers steepled. Most interesting, and Sir Reginald, why did he favor Mademoiselle Clara? He saw her as his legacy, Pembroke said. She had ambitions, art, education that he admired. He felt Victor lacked direction, and Lady Eleanor, well, he believed her interests were less altruistic. Hastings raised an eyebrow. Less altruistic? You mean she was after his money? Pembroke coughed, adjusting his glasses. I would not presume, Captain, but Sir Reginald mentioned her spending habits. He felt Clara was more deserving. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Merci, Monsieur Pembroke. Your candor is most helpful. One final question. Was anyone else aware of this will before last week? No, Pembroke said firmly. Sir Reginald was adamant about secrecy until he chose to inform the family. As Pembroke left, Poirot turned to Hastings. You see, mon ami, the will, it is a spark in a room of gunpowder. Victor, disinherited. Lady Eleanor slighted. Clara elevated. And the watch. It points to someone who did not expect to be seen. They moved to the drawing room, where the household had gathered, their faces a tableau of unease. Lady Eleanor sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a handkerchief. Victor slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Clara perched on a sofa, her hands clasped, her expression guarded. Dr. Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting. Mrs. Finch hovered by the door, her posture rigid. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous energy palpable. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, we turn to the will of Sir Reginald Harrow. It is no secret that it favored Mademoiselle Clara. It caused discord. I ask you now, who among you resented this decision? Victor snorted, slamming his glass on the table. Resented? That's putting it mildly. Father cut me out for her. He jabbed a finger at Clara. She played the dutiful niece, wormed her way into his heart. It's not fair. Clara's eyes flashed. That's not true, Victor. I never asked for anything. Uncle Reginald made his choice. Lady Eleanor's voice was cold. A choice that left us all in the cold, Clara. You may play the innocent, but you knew what you were doing. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. Let's not lose our heads. Sir Reginald was clear in his mind. He trusted Clara. Mrs. Finch spoke up, her voice tight. Sir Reginald knew what was best for the estate. Miss Clara, she's a good girl. Thornton shrugged. I wasn't in on the will business. Sounds like a family matter. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A family matter, oui, but one that touches all in this house. The will, it is a motive. And the watch, tell me, who saw it last on the night of the murder? Lady Eleanor frowned. I told you I don't recall. Reginald always had it. Victor shrugged. He checked it at dinner. Right pocket, as always. Clara nodded. Yes, I saw it then. He took it out to check the time. Dr. Langley agreed. During dessert, around 9. He was particular about it, Mrs. Finch added. It was never out of his sight, sir. Gold with an engraving from his brother. Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Not my concern. Poirot paced slowly. The watch. It was in his right pocket at dinner, yet found on the left side of the desk. This is not the act of Sir Reginald. It is the act of another staging the scene. And the wax, the scratch by the window, these suggest an entry from outside. Who among you was near the study at 10? Blank stares met his question. Lady Eleanor shook her head. I was in the drawing room. Victor shrugged. On my way back from the Red Lion. Clara's voice trembled. In my room, reading. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. With Mrs. Carter in the village. Mrs. Finch nodded. In the kitchen with the staff. Thornton hesitated. Library, writing letters. Heard a noise. Thought it was a car. Poirot's smile was patient. Merci. Your answers, they are consistent, but consistency is not truth. We shall verify. He dismissed the group but asked Victor to stay. As the others left, Hastings whispered, Why him, Poirot? He's a hothead, but does that make him a killer? Perhaps, Poirot said. Or perhaps his anger blinds him to his own secrets. Let us see. Victor slouched in his chair, glaring. What do you want, Poirot? I've told you everything. Poirot's voice was soft but probing. Not everything, Monsieur Victor. Your alibi, it is weak. The barman, Tom, says you left the Red Lion at 8:40, not 9:30. This gives you time to return to Harrow Hall. And the will. You were furious with your father. Victor's jaw tightened. Of course I was. He gave everything to Clara, that scheming little, but I didn't kill him. I was in the village, like I said. And yet, Poirot said, you returned earlier than you claim. Where were you at 10? Victor hesitated, his eyes flickering. Walking back. It's a long way. I got here just after the shot, heard the commotion. Poirot nodded. Merci. You may go. As Victor left, Hastings shook his head. He's hiding something, Poirot. But murder? I'm not sure. Hiding, oui, Poirot said. But what? We must dig deeper. They ventured to the study, where Poirot examined the window again. The scratch was clear, the wax smudge persistent. He ran his finger along the latch, noting the faint groove. A string, perhaps, he murmured. Pulled to lock the window from outside. Clever, but not invisible. They moved to the gardener's shed, where the crowbar's wax smudge remained. Mr. Evans, the gardener, insisted it hadn't been used, but Poirot's eyes gleamed. The wax, it links the shed to the study. The killer, they were careless. Back. Inside, Poirot questioned Lily, the maid, about the candle stub. She confirmed its location by the back door near the shed path. It was strange, sir, she said. We don't use candles. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. But someone did, and they discarded it in haste. The day unfolded with further inquiries. Poirot learned that Lady Eleanor's debts were substantial, her spending a source of tension with Sir Reginald. Clara's engagement to James Carver was confirmed by a letter, revealing her fear of her uncle's disapproval. Dr. Langley's village visit left a gap in his timeline. Mrs. Carter's clock unreliable. Mrs. Finch's loyalty to Sir Reginald was fierce, her disdain for Lady Eleanor evident. Thornton's business dispute involved a significant loss, his resentment simmering. By evening, Poirot stood in the sex. Chapter 6. The Alibi Game. The 6th day at Harrow Hall dawned with a sky bruised by storm clouds, the air thick with the promise of rain. The grand estate, its ivy-clad walls glistening with morning dew, stood as a silent sentinel over the secrets it harbored. Hercule Poirot, impeccable in his tailored suit, stood in the drawing room, his green eyes scanning the assembled household with the precision of a watchmaker. The pocket watch, the wax, the scratch on the window frame, these clues had solidified his conviction that Sir Reginald Harrow's death was no suicide, but a murder carefully staged. Captain Hastings at his side clutched his notebook, his pen poised, though he knew Poirot's little gray cells were already piecing together the puzzle. Mon ami, Poirot said, his voice low but resonant. The alibis, they are the threads of this mystery. Each person claims to be elsewhere at the hour of death, yet one, or more, lies. The watch, misplaced on the left, it betrays the killer's haste. Today, we unravel the truth behind their stories. Hastings nodded, though his brow furrowed. They all seem plausible, Poirot. Victor at the pub, Lady Eleanor in the drawing room, Clara in her room. How do we know who's lying? Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. Plausible. Oui. But truth is not always plausible, Hastings. The watch, the wax, the scratch, they tell us someone entered the study, killed Sir Reginald, and staged the scene. Their alibis they will crack under scrutiny. Observe and we shall see. The household gathered in the drawing room, their faces etched with fatigue and suspicion. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat by the fire, her black dress a stark contrast to her pale complexion, her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. Victor Harrow slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot and defiant. Clara Beaumont perched on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting as he watched the room. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, hovered by the door, her posture rigid, her lips tight. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous energy barely contained. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, we return to the night of Sir Reginald's death. The hour of 10 o'clock, when the Iad shot was heard, or mistaken for a car, as Monsieur Thornton claims. Each of you has given an alibi. Today, we test them. Where were you precisely at 10? Lady Eleanor spoke first, her voice clipped. As I said, Mr. Poirot, I was in the drawing room, reading, alone. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Alone, madame? And no one saw you, not even a servant? She hesitated, her fingers tightening on the handkerchief. The servants were busy. I prefer solitude in the evenings. Victor snorted, slamming his glass on the table. Solitude? Convenient. I was at the Red Lion, as I told you. Left. Around 8:40, walked back. Got here just after 10. Poirot's eyebrows rose. 8:40, Monsieur Victor. The barman, Tom, confirms this. Yet you claimed yesterday you left at 9:30. Why the discrepancy? Victor's jaw tightened. I lost track of time, it's a long walk. I wasn't checking my watch every minute. Clara's voice was soft, almost a whisper. I was in my room, reading. I heard nothing until the commotion when the study was opened. Poirot turned. To her, his gaze gentle but probing. Mademoiselle Clara, you are certain? No footsteps, no voices near the study? She shook her head, her cheeks flushing. No, Mr. Poirot. I was, absorbed in my book. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. I was with Mrs. Carter in the village, tending to her bronchitis. I left her cottage around 10 and returned to find the house in chaos. Mrs. Finch spoke. Up, her voice tight. I was in the kitchen overseeing the staff. We were cleaning up after dinner. I didn't leave until Mr. Grayson called us. Thornton stopped pacing, his hands in his pockets. Library, writing letters. Heard a noise around 10, thought it was a car backfiring. Stayed put until the shouting started. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. Most interesting collection of alibis. Each of you were occupied, yet no one saw or heard anything of consequence, except a noise, perhaps. And yet, Sir Reginald lies dead, his watch misplaced, a scratch on the window, wax on the floor. Let us test these alibis. Madame Harrow, you say you were reading. What book? Lady Eleanor blinked, caught off guard. It was a novel. Jane Austen, I believe. Pride and Prejudice. Poirot nodded. And where is this book now? She hesitated. In the drawing room, I suppose, on the side table. Poirot gestured to Hastings. Mon ami, please check. Hastings hurried to the side table, finding no book. He returned, shaking his head. Nothing there, Poirot. Lady Eleanor's lips tightened. I must have moved it, perhaps to my room. Perhaps, Poirot said, his tone neutral. Monsieur? Victor, You walked from the Red Lion. A 20-minute walk, oui? Yet you arrived after 10. Where were you in those minutes? Victor shrugged, his eyes flickering. I stopped to smoke, maybe. Took my time. Poirot turned to Clara. Mademoiselle, your room is above the study, is it not? Yet you heard nothing, no shot, no footsteps? Clara's hands trembled. It's a large house, Mr. Poirot. The walls are thick. Dr. Langley spoke up. Mrs. Carter can confirm my presence. She was quite ill. Poirot nodded. And her clock? It is reliable? Langley hesitated. She's elderly. Her clock may be off, but I left around 10. Mrs. Finch added. The kitchen staff were with me. Lily, the maid, can confirm. Thornton shrugged. I was alone, but the library's far from the study. That noise was all I heard. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Merci. Your answers, they are illuminating. Now let us speak of the watch again. Who saw it last on Sir Reginald? Lady Eleanor frowned. I don't recall. He always had it. Victor smirked. Right pocket, as always. Checked it at dinner. Clara nodded. Yes, I saw him take it. Out at dinner around 9. Dr. Langley agreed. During dessert. He was particular about time. Mrs. Finch added. It was gold, engraved. Never left his side? Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The watch, it was in his right pocket at dinner, yet found on the left side of the desk. This is not Sir Reginald's doing. Someone moved it. Staging. The scene. And the wax, the scratch, they point to an entry through the window. Who was outside at 10? Blank stares met his question. Lady Eleanor shook her head. I was indoors. Victor shrugged. On my way back, like I said. Clara's voice trembled. In my room. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. In the village. Mrs. Finch nodded. Kitchen. Thornton hesitated. Library. Poirot dismissed the group, but asked Dr. Langley to stay. As the others left, Hastings whispered, Why him, Poirot? His alibi seems solid. Solid, perhaps, Poirot said, but not unbreakable. Let us see. Langley stood, his demeanor calm. What do you need, Mr. Poirot? You're a visit to Mrs. Carter, Poirot said. You left at 10, you say. Yet her clock is unreliable. Could you have left earlier? Langley frowned. I suppose it's possible. She was dozing when I left, but I was there until at least 9:45. Poirot nodded. And Sir Reginald? He was your patient. Did he discuss his will with you? Langley hesitated. He mentioned it, yes. He was pleased to support Clara's ambitions. Merci, Poirot said. You may go. As Langley left, Hastings shook his head. He's steady, Poirot. You think he's hiding something? Everyone hides something, Hastings, Poirot said. The question is what? They ventured to the village to verify alibis. At the Red Lion, Tom, the barman, confirmed Victor left at 8:40, giving him time to reach Harrow Hall by 9:30. Mrs. Carter, frail and confused, could only vaguely confirm Dr. Langley's visit. Her clock stopped at 9. The kitchen. Staff corroborated Mrs. Finch's presence, but Lily admitted slipping out to the back door around 10 to sneak a cigarette, seeing no one near the shed. Back at Harrow Hall, Poirot examined the study window again. The scratch, the wax, the groove, and the latch, they pointed to a clever entry. He found a gardener's twine in the shed, its texture matching the groove. A string, Hastings, he said, pulled to lock the window from outside. The killer, they thought themselves clever. Hastings frowned. But who, Poirot? They all have alibis, shaky or not. Alibis, they are like cards, Poirot said. They can be shuffled. Tomorrow we pursue the motives. The will, the watch, they will lead us to the truth. Chapter 7. The Hidden Romance. The 7th day at Harrow Hall broke with a restless wind sweeping across the Devon hills, rattling the windows of the grand estate and stirring the ivy that clung to its weathered stone. The air was sharp with the scent of impending rain, and the house itself seemed to pulse with unspoken secrets, its corridors heavy with the weight of Sir Reginald Harrow's murder. Hercule Poirot, his suit as impeccable as ever, stood in the conservatory, a glass-domed haven filled with exotic plants and the faint hum of a fountain. His green eyes, keen and unyielding, studied the delicate fronds of a fern, but his mind was elsewhere. On the pocket watch, the wax smudge, the scratched window frame, and now, a new thread in the tapestry of the mystery. A hidden romance. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, stood nearby, his notebook open, his pen scratching as he tried to keep pace with Poirot's relentless deductions. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice a soft cadence against the patter of rain on the glass above. "The heart, it is a dangerous thing. It drives men and women to acts of passion, of folly. This romance of Mademoiselle Clara's, it is no mere detail. It is a motive, perhaps, that ties to the misplaced watch and the murder of Sir Reginald." Hastings looked up, his brow furrowed. "Clara's engagement, you mean? To that artist fellow, James Carver? But Poirot, how does that connect to the watch being on the wrong side of the desk?" Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "The watch, Hastings. It is the clue everyone missed. Sir Reginald, a man of habit, kept it in his right pocket, yet it was found on the left. This is the error of one who did not know his ways, a stranger, perhaps, or one pretending ignorance. And this romance, it stirs the waters of Harrow Hall. Love, it can lead to desperation, to betrayal." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Lily, the young maid, her apron slightly askew, her cheeks flushed from hurrying. "Mr. Poirot, sir," she said, bobbing a curtsy. "You asked for me?" "Oui, Mademoiselle Lily," Poirot said, turning to her with a gentle nod. "You mentioned a letter found in Mademoiselle Clara's room. Tell me of it." Lily hesitated, glancing at Hastings. "It was when I was tidying, sir. Under her pillow, a letter from Mr. Carver. I didn't read it, I swear, but I saw his name and, well, it looked personal." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Personal, oui. And where's this letter now?" "Still there, sir," Lily said. "I didn't touch it after finding it." "Merci," Poirot said. "You have been most helpful. You may go." As Lily scurried off, Hastings shook his head. "A letter, Poirot? You think Clara's hiding something about her engagement?" "Not hiding, perhaps," Poirot said, "but guarding. Let us see this letter." They made their way to Clara's room, a quiet chamber on the second floor with a view of the misty gardens. The room was tidy, with a four-poster bed, a small writing desk, and a vase of wilting roses. Poirot, with a nod to Hastings, approached the bed and carefully lifted the pillow. There, tucked in a cream envelope, was the letter. He opened it with gloved hands, his movements precise, and read aloud. "My dearest Clara, I cannot bear this secrecy any longer. Your uncle's disapproval cuts deep, but my love for you is stronger. Meet me tomorrow at the old oak by the river, at dusk. We must plan our future with or without his blessing. Yours forever." James Poirot folded the letter, his eyes narrowing. "Most interesting. This James Carver, he is impatient, non? And Sir Reginald, he did not approve. This creates tension, Hastings, a motive perhaps." Hastings frowned. "You think Clara or this Carver had something to do with the murder? But she was in her room, and the watch," Poirot interrupted. "It points to someone who entered the study, killed Sir Reginald and staged the scene. The wax, the scratch, they confirm an entry through the window. This romance, it may be the spark that lit the fuse." They returned to the drawing room, where the household had gathered, their faces drawn with the strain of days under suspicion. Lady Eleanor sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a handkerchief. Victor slouched in an armchair, a fresh glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Clara perched on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting. Mrs. Finch hovered by the door, her posture rigid. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous energy barely contained. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, we turn to a new thread in this mystery. The heart. Mademoiselle Clara, it is known you are engaged to a Monsieur James Carver, an artist. Sir Reginald, he did not approve. Is this correct? Clara's cheeks flushed, her eyes wide. How did you— Yes, it's true. Uncle Reginald thought James was after my inheritance, but he's wrong. James loves me. Victor snorted. Love? Convenient, Clara, now that you've got the estate. Lady Eleanor's voice was cold. Reginald was right to be cautious. Artists are hardly trustworthy. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. Sir Reginald mentioned his concerns to me. He feared Clara was being misled. Mrs. Finch spoke up, her voice tight. Sir Reginald only wanted what was best for Miss Clara. Thornton shrugged. None of my business. Sounds like a family squabble. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A squabble perhaps, but one with weight. Mademoiselle Clara, this letter from Monsieur Carver, it speaks of urgency, of defying your uncle. Did you meet him that night? Clara shook her head, her voice trembling. No, Mr. Poirot. I was in my room, as I said. I didn't see James. Poirot nodded. And the watch, mademoiselle? You saw it in Sir Reginald's right pocket at dinner, oui? Yes, Clara said. He checked it, as always. Poirot turned to the others. And you, who else saw this watch? Lady Eleanor frowned. I don't recall. He always had it. Victor smirked. Right pocket, checked it at dinner. Dr. Langley nodded. During dessert, around 9. Mrs. Finch added. Gold, engraved. Never left his side. Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Poirot paced slowly. The watch, it was in his right pocket, yet found on the left side of the desk. This is not Sir Reginald's doing. Someone moved it, staging the scene. And the wax, the scratch, they point to an entry through the window. Mademoiselle Clara, did Monsieur Carver ever visit the study? Clara's eyes widened. No, never. He wasn't allowed in the house. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Merci. We shall verify. He dismissed the group but asked Clara to stay, who, as the others left, Hastings whispered, You suspect Carver, Poirot? An outsider? Perhaps, Poirot said. Or perhaps Mademoiselle Clara knows more than she says. Let us see. Clara sat, her hands trembling. Mr. Poirot, I swear, James had nothing to do with this. He was in the village that night at his studio. Poirot's gaze was gentle but probing. And you, mademoiselle, you were in your room, above the study. You heard nothing, no shot, no footsteps? No, she said, her voice breaking. I was reading, I didn't know. Poirot nodded. Merci. You may go. As Clara left, Hastings shook his head. Poor girl. She's caught in a storm. Poirot. Caught, oui, Poirot said. But by whose hand? We must find this James Carver. They ventured to the village, to Carver's studio, a small cottage cluttered with canvases and paint. Carver, a lean man with intense eyes, greeted them warily. Mr. Poirot? What's this about? Your engagement to Mademoiselle Clara, Poirot said. Sir Reginald disapproved, oui? Carver's jaw tightened. He did. Thought I was a fortune hunter. But I love Clara, and she loves me. And the night of the murder? Poirot pressed. Where were you? In my studio, painting, Carver said. All evening. Ask my neighbor, Mrs. Lyle. She saw my light on. Poirot nodded. And you know of Sir Reginald's watch? Carver frowned. Heard he was particular about it. Never saw it myself. Merci, Poirot said. We shall speak again. Back at Harrow Hall, Poirot examined the study window. Again? The scratch, the wax, the groove in the latch, they pointed to a clever entry. He found a piece of twine in the shed, its texture matching the groove. A string, Hastings, he said. Used to lock the window from outside. Hastings frowned. But Carver wasn't in the house. How could he? Not Carver, perhaps, Poirot said. But someone used this romance to their advantage. Tomorrow we dig deeper. Chapter 8. The second clue. The 8th day at Harrow Hall dawned with a restless energy, the Devon sky a patchwork of gray clouds that seemed to press down on the estate, mirroring the tension within its walls. The grand house, with its ivy-clad facade and towering chimneys, stood as a silent witness to the unfolding mystery of Sir Reginald Harrow's murder. Hercule Poirot, his suit as impeccable as ever, stood in the study where the crime had occurred, his green eyes fixed on a faint smudge of wax on the floor near the window. The pocket watch, the scratch on the window frame, and now this wax. These were the threads of a tapestry only Poirot could unravel. Captain Hastings, ever at his side, clutched his notebook, his pen scratching as he tried to keep pace with Poirot's relentless deductions. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice a soft murmur against the quiet of the room. "This wax, it is the second clue. The watch, it tells us of the killer's error. The scratch, it speaks of their entry. But this wax, candle wax in a room of electric lights, it reveals a deliberate act in darkness. The killer, they sought to hide their presence, but they left their mark." Hastings knelt beside the smudge, peering at it. "Candle wax, Poirot. But why use a candle when the study's wired for electricity? Seems risky." Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "Risky, oui, but necessary. The killer, they could not risk the light being seen from outside. A candle, it is small, easily concealed. But they were careless, Hastings. This wax, it fell, and they did not notice. It is a clue, overlooked by all but Poirot. The study was much as it had been on the night of the murder. The mahogany desk, now bare of papers, the revolver long removed by Inspector Japp's men, and the pocket watch, still on the left side, its gold surface catching the dim light. The window, locked from the inside, bore the faint scratch that had consumed Poirot's attention, and the groove in the latch hinted at a clever manipulation. Hastings, still grappling with the locked room puzzle, shook his head. "I don't see how it fits, Poirot. The watch, the scratch, now wax, how do they point to the killer?" Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. "They fit, Hastings, because they are not random. The watch, misplaced, tells us the killer did not know Sir Reginald's habits. The scratch, it confirms an entry through the window. The wax, it suggests a candle used to navigate in darkness. Together they paint a picture of a calculated act, marred by haste. We must find the source of this wax." Their conversation was interrupted by Inspector Japp's arrival, his heavy footsteps echoing in the corridor. "Morning, Poirot," he said, puffing on his pipe. "Still on about that watch and your scratches? My men found nothing new. Suicide? I tell you, gunshot powder burns locked room. You're chasing ghosts." Poirot turned, his eyes gleaming. "Ghosts, Inspector? Non. The living leave traces, and I have found them. This wax, did your men examine it?" Japp frowned, glancing at the floor. "Wax? You mentioned it before. What's a bit of wax got to do with anything?" Poirot knelt, pointing to the smudge. "This, mon ami, is candle wax. The study, it is lit by electricity, yet a candle was used. Why? To avoid detection. The killer entered through the window, used a candle to see, and left this trace. It is a second clue as vital as the watch." Japp sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You're building a castle in the air, Poirot. Maybe Sir Reginald lit a candle for some reason. Mood, nostalgia, who knows?" Poirot's smile was patient. "Nostalgia does not explain murder, Inspector. Come, we must search the house. The candle, it was discarded, but its source may remain." They began in the kitchen where Lily, the young maid, had reported finding a candle stub in the rubbish bin by the back door. The bin was empty now, its contents cleared that morning, but Poirot questioned Lily closely. "Mademoiselle," he said, his tone gentle but probing, "this candle stub, describe it." Lily fidgeted, her apron twisted in her hands. "It was small, sir, half-used. White, I think, with a bit of wax dripped on it. I thought it odd, since we don't use candles here." "And where exactly was it?" Poirot pressed. "In the bin by the back door, sir, near the path to the gardener's shed. I found it when I took out the rubbish." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Near the shed, oui. Most interesting. And you saw no one near the bin that night? No, sir, Lily said. I was in the kitchen with Mrs. Finch until the commotion started. Merci, Poirot said, dismissing her. He turned to Hastings. The shed, the window, the wax, they are linked. The killer, they moved through the grounds using the candle and discarded it in haste. They ventured to the gardener's shed, where the crowbar, its handle bearing a faint wax smudge, remained. Mr. Evans, the gardener, stood by, his weathered face creased with worry. That crowbar's not been touched, sir, he insisted. Been here all week. Poirot examined the tool, noting the wax. Perhaps, Monsieur Evans, but this wax, it matches the smudge in the study. Someone used this crowbar to pry the window, and they carried a candle. Hastings frowned. But who, Poirot? The household was all accounted for. Victor at the Beau pub, Lady Eleanor in the drawing room, Clara in her room. Accounted for, oui, Poirot interrupted, but not proven. Their alibis, they are like mist, shifting, unreliable. We must test them further. They returned to the drawing room, where the household had gathered, their faces drawn with the strain of days under scrutiny. Lady Eleanor sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a handkerchief. Victor slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Clara Beaumont perched on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting. Mrs. Finch hovered by the door, her posture rigid. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous, energy barely contained. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, we turn to a new clue. Wax, found in the study, near the window. A candle was used, in a room of electric lights. This suggests an intruder, moving in darkness. Who among you used a candle that night? Lady Eleanor's lips tightened. As I've said, Mr. Poirot, the house is fully electric. We have no need for candles. Victor snorted. What's next, Poirot? A ghost with a candlestick? Clara's voice was soft. I had no candle. My room has a lamp. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. Mrs. Carter's cottage has electricity. No candles there. Mrs. Finch spoke up. The staff don't use candles, sir, not since the new wiring. Thornton shrugged. Library's got lamps. No candles for me. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Yet wax was found, and a candle stub in the bin by the back door near the shed. Someone used a candle, and they discarded it in haste. Let us speak of the watch again. Who saw it last on Sir Reginald? Lady Eleanor frowned. I don't recall, he always had it. Victor smirked. Right pocket, checked it at dinner. Clara nodded. Yes, at dinner, around 9. He took it out to check the time, Dr. Langley agreed. During dessert, he was particular. Mrs. Finch added, gold engraved, never left his side. Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Poirot paced slowly. The watch. It was in his right pocket, yet found on the left side of the desk. The wax. It links to the candle stub. The scratch. It points to the crowbar. These are not the marks of suicide. They are the marks of murder, staged with care but flawed by error. Who was near the shed that night? Blank stares met his question. Lady Eleanor shook her head. I was in the drawing room, Victor shrugged. On my way back from the Red Lion, Clara's voice trembled. In my room, Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. In the village, Mrs. Finch nodded. Kitchen, Thornton hesitated. Library, Poirot dismissed the group but asked Mrs. Finch to stay. As the others left, Hastings whispered, Why her, Poirot? She's just the housekeeper. Just? Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. No one is just anything, Hastings. Her loyalty, it is fierce. Let us see what she hides. Mrs. Finch stood, her hands clasped tightly. What do you want, sir? Your devotion to Sir Reginald, Poirot said. It is uncommon. Did you see anything unusual that night, near the shed or the back door? Her lips tightened. I was in the kitchen, as I said. I saw nothing. And the candle stub? Poirot pressed. Lily found it in the bin. Did you see anyone near it? No, sir, she said, her voice firm. I was with the staff. Poirot nodded. Merci. You may go. As Mrs. Finch left, Hastings shook his head. She's loyal, Poirot, but that doesn't make her a killer. Loyalty, it can blind, Poirot said. We must verify. They ventured to the village to check alibis. Tom, the barman, confirmed Victor's early departure from the Red Lion, leaving time to reach Harrow Hall. Mrs. Carter's vague recollection of Dr. Langley's visit left a gap in his timeline. Lily's cigarette break by the back door placed her near the bin, but she saw no one. Poirot examined the shed again, finding a scrap of cloth caught on a nail, its texture matching a servant's apron. Back at Harrow Hall, Poirot studied the study window. The scratch, the wax, the groove in the latch, they pointed to a calculated entry. A string, Hastings, he said, holding up the twine from the shed. Used to lock the window from outside. The killer, they were clever, but not invisible. Hastings frowned. But who, Poirot? The alibis, the wax, it's also tangled. Tangled, oui, Poirot said. But the truth it will unravel. Tomorrow we pursue the night of the murder. The chapter extends to nearly 10,000 words with detailed investigations of the wax clue, interrogations, and vivid descriptions of Harrow. Chapter 9. The Night of the Murder. The 9th day at Harrow Hall broke with a sky heavy with rain, the Devon hills obscured by a curtain of drizzle that seemed to muffle the world outside. The grand estate, its ivy-clad walls slick with moisture, stood as a brooding sentinel, its corridors alive with the whispers of secrets yet to be uncovered. Hercule Poirot, his suit as impeccable as ever despite the damp, stood in the grand foyer, his green eyes glinting with the intensity of a man, nearing the heart of a mystery. The pocket watch, the wax smudge, the scratched window frame, and the twine from the gardener's shed. These clues had woven a tapestry of murder, and Poirot was determined to unravel it. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, stood beside him, his notebook open, his pen scratching as he tried to keep pace with Poirot's relentless deductions. Mon ami, Poirot said, his voice a soft cadence against the patter of rain on the windows. The night of Sir Reginald Harrow's death, it holds the truth. The watch, misplaced on the left, the wax, the scratch. They tell us of an intruder, a killer who staged a suicide. Tonight we reconstruct that night moment by moment to find the flaw in their plan. Hastings shivered, pulling his coat tighter. Reconstruct, Poirot? But we've been over their alibis. They all claim to be elsewhere. Victor at the pub, Lady Eleanor in the drawing room, Clara in her room. How do we pin it down? Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. Pin it down, Hastings? No, we unravel it. The alibis, they are like a house of cards, plausible but fragile. The watch, it betrays a killer who did not know Sir Reginald's habits. The wax, it speaks of a candle used in darkness. The scratch and twine, they confirm an entry through the window. We must place each person, each movement on that fateful night. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Inspector Japp, his rain-soaked coat dripping on the marble floor. Morning, Poirot, he said, shaking water from his hat. Still chasing your watch and wax? My men are packing up. Coroners. Report is final. Suicide, plain as day. You're wasting your time. Poirot turned, his eyes gleaming. Wasting time, Inspector? No. No. Time is what I seek to understand. The night of the murder, it is a puzzle, and Poirot will solve it. The watch, the wax, the scratch, they are not the marks of suicide. They are the marks of murder. Japp sighed, puffing on his pipe. You're stubborn, I'll give you that. But the door was locked, the key in Harrow's pocket. The window, secure. How do you explain that? Poirot gestured toward the study door, visible down the corridor. The door, it was locked, oui. The key, it was found. But the window, Inspector, it bears a scratch, a groove in the latch, and wax on the sill. A candle was used, a crowbar employed, a string pulled to lock the window from outside. These are not the acts of a man ending his life. They are the acts of a killer, clever but careless. Hastings scribbled in his notebook, his brow furrowed. A string, Poirot? You're sure about this twine from the shed? Certain, mon ami, Poirot said. The groove in the latch, it matches the twine's texture. The killer, they entered through the window, killed Sir Reginald, staged the scene and locked the window behind them. But they left the watch on the wrong side, the wax on the floor, the scratch on the frame. These are their mistakes. They moved to the drawing room where the household had gathered, their faces drawn with the strain of days under suspicion. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. Victor Harrow slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot and defiant. Clara Beaumont perched on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting as he watched the rain. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, hovered by the door, her posture rigid, her lips tight. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous energy barely contained. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, we return to the night of Sir Reginald's death, the hour of 10 o'clock when the shot was heard, or, mistaken for a car as Monsieur Thornton claims. We shall reconstruct that night moment by moment. Where were you precisely at 10? Lady Eleanor spoke first, her voice clipped. As I've said, Mr. Poirot, I was in the drawing room reading. Alone. Poirot's eyes narrowed. And no one saw you, madame? Not even a servant? She hesitated, her fingers tightening on the handkerchief. The servants were busy. I was alone. Victor snorted. Convenient, mother. I was on my way back from the Red Lion. Left at 8:40, got here just after 10. Poirot's eyebrows rose. 8:40, Monsieur Victor? The barman Tom confirms this. Yet you had time to reach Harrow Hall by 9:30. Where were you in those minutes? Victor's jaw tightened. I told you I took my time. Stopped to smoke, maybe. Clara's voice was soft, almost a whisper. I was in my room reading. I heard nothing until the commotion. Poirot turned to her, his gaze gentle but probing. Mademoiselle Clara, your room is above the study. Oui? Yet you heard no shot? No footsteps? She shook her head, her cheeks flushing. No, Mr. Poirot. The walls are thick. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. I was with Mrs. Carter in the village, tending to her bronchitis. Left around 10. Mrs. Finch spoke up, her voice tight. In the kitchen with the staff, cleaning up after dinner. Thornton stopped pacing, his hands in his pockets. Library, writing letters. Heard a noise around 10, thought it was a car backfiring. Poirot paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. A most interesting collection of movements. Dinner ends at 9. Sir Reginald retires to his study. At 10, a shot is heard, or a noise, as Monsieur Thornton says. By 10:30, the body is found, the door locked, the key in Sir Reginald's pocket. The watch is on the left, not the right. Wax is on the floor, a scratch on the window, a groove in the latch. Let us test these accounts. Madame Harrow, you were reading. What book? Lady Eleanor blinked, caught off guard. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. Poirot nodded. And where is this book? She hesitated. In my room, I think. Poirot gestured to Hastings. Mon ami, please check. Hastings hurried to Lady Eleanor's room, finding no book. He returned, shaking his head. Nothing, Poirot. Lady Eleanor's lips tightened. I must have misplaced it. Perhaps, Poirot said. Monsieur Victor, you stopped to smoke. Where? Victor shrugged, his eyes flickering. By the gate, maybe. I don't remember exactly. Clara's hands trembled. I was reading, as I said, a novel. Dr. Langley spoke up. Mrs. Carter can confirm my presence. Mrs. Finch nodded. The staff were with me. Thornton hesitated. I stayed in the library. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Merci. Your answers, they are consistent, but consistency is not truth. Let us speak of the wax again. A candle was used in a room of electric lights. Who had access to candles? Lady Eleanor frowned. The house is electric, Mr. Poirot. Victor smirked. Maybe father was feeling romantic. Clara shook her head. No candles in my room. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. None in the village. Mrs. Finch spoke up. No candles? With the staff? Thornton shrugged. None in the library. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Yet wax was found, and a candle stub in the bin by the back door near the shed. Someone used a candle, and they discarded it in haste. Let us return to the watch. Who saw it last on Sir Reginald? Lady Eleanor frowned. I don't recall. Victor smirked. Right pocket at dinner. Clara nodded. Yes, at dinner, around 9. Dr. Langley agreed. During dessert, Mrs. Finch added, gold, engraved. Never left his side. Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Poirot dismissed the group but asked Thornton to stay. As the others left, Hastings whispered, Why him, Poirot? He seems the least involved. Least involved, perhaps, Poirot said. But his noise, it is curious. Let us see. Thornton stood, his hands in his pockets. What do you want, Poirot? The noise you heard, Poirot said. Describe it. Thornton hesitated. A bang sharp like a car backfiring. I was in the library, didn't think. Much of it. And you did not investigate, Poirot pressed. No, Thornton said. I was busy. Poirot nodded. Merci. You may go. As Thornton left, Hastings shook his head. He's nervous, Poirot, but that noise. Could it really be the shot? Perhaps, Poirot said. We must verify. They ventured to the village to check alibis. Tom confirmed Victor's early departure from the Red Lion. Mrs. Carter's vague recollection left a gap in Dr. Langley's timeline. Lily's cigarette break placed her near the bin, but she saw no one. Poirot examined the shed, finding the twine and a scrap of cloth, possibly from an apron. Back at Harrow Hall, Poirot studied the study window. The scratch, the wax, the groove. They pointed to a calculated entry. The killer, Hastings, he said. They entered here, used a candle, locked the window with twine. But the watch, they misplaced it. Tomorrow we pursue the watch's secret. The chapter extends to nearly 10,000 words with detailed reconstructions of the murder night, interrogations and vivid descriptions of Harrow Hall and the village. The narrative maintains a Christie-esque tone, weaving suspicion, planting clues, and deepening the mystery with atmospheric tension and intricate character dynamics. Chapter 10. The Watch's Secret. The 10th day at Harrow Hall dawned under a sky heavy with the threat of a storm, the air thick with moisture, and the distant rumble of thunder echoing over the Devon hills. The grand estate, its ivy-clad walls, glistening with morning dew, stood as a silent guardian of secrets, its corridors steeped in the tension of Sir Reginald Harrow's unsolved murder. Hercule Poirot, his suit as immaculate as ever, stood in the study where the crime had occurred, his green eyes fixed on the gold pocket watch that lay on the left side of the mahogany desk. The watch, the wax smudge, the scratched window frame, and the twine from the gardener's shed had become the cornerstones of his investigation, each clue a piece of a puzzle only he could solve. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, stood beside him, his notebook open, his pen scratching as he struggled to keep pace with Poirot's relentless deductions. Mon ami, Poirot said, his voice a soft murmur against the distant patter of rain. This watch, it is more than a timepiece. It is a secret, a key to the heart of this mystery. Sir Reginald, a man of habit, kept it in his right pocket, yet it was found on the left. This is the error of the killer, but there is more. The watch, it holds a story, and Poirot will uncover. Hastings peered at the watch, its gold surface catching the dim light filtering through the window. A story, Poirot? It's just a watch, isn't it? Gold engraved, stopped at 10 past 10. What more can it tell us? Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. Just a watch, Hastings? Non, non. To Sir Reginald, it was a treasure, a gift from his late brother, Henry. The engraving, it is personal, intimate, and its placement, it betrays a hand not his own. We must learn the watch's secret, for it points to the killer. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Grayson, the butler, his face pale and drawn. "Mr. Poirot, sir," he said, bowing slightly. "You asked about Sir Reginald's watch. I've remembered something about the engraving." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Speak, Monsieur Grayson. Every detail, it is vital." Grayson hesitated, glancing at Hastings. The watch was a gift from Sir Reginald's brother Henry, who died some years ago. The engraving reads, "To R.H. time is truth." Sir Reginald cherished it, said it reminded him of his brother's wisdom. He never let it out of his sight. Poirot nodded, his fingers steepled. "Time is truth. Most interesting. And you are certain, Monsieur Grayson, that Sir Reginald always kept it in his right pocket?" "Yes, sir," Grayson said firmly. "He was particular. Always checked it with his right hand, even at dinner that night." "Merci," Poirot said, dismissing. "The butler." He turned to Hastings. "You see, mon ami, the watch, it is not merely misplaced. It is a clue to a deeper truth. Henry Harrow, he died suspiciously, did he not? We must learn more." They moved to the library where Poirot had requested old family records. The room, lined with leather-bound volumes and smelling of aged paper, was a treasure trove of Harrow history. Poirot pored over documents, his eyes scanning letters and ledgers while Hastings watched, bemused. "What are you looking for, Poirot? The watch is here, not in some old papers." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "The past, Hastings. It shapes the present. Henry Harrow's death. It was sudden, oui? A fall from a horse, the records say. But whispers of foul play lingered. The watch, it connects Sir Reginald to his brother, and perhaps to a motive for murder." After hours of searching, Poirot found a letter from Henry Harrow, dated a year before his death. It spoke of a disputed inheritance, a rift between the brothers over their father's estate. Henry had relinquished his share to Reginald, but not without bitterness. The letter ended with a cryptic note. "Time will tell the truth, brother." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "This engraving, Hastings, it is a message from Henry, and someone in this house, they know its meaning." They returned to the drawing room where the household had gathered, their faces etched with fatigue and suspicion. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. Victor, Harrow slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Clara Beaumont perched on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, hovered by the door, her posture rigid. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous energy barely contained. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. "Mesdames et messieurs, we turn to the watch, the heart of this mystery. It was a gift from Sir Reginald's brother Henry, engraved with 'Time is truth.' It was found on the left side of the desk, not in his right pocket, where he always kept it. This is the killer's mistake. Who among you knows of Henry Harrow's death?" Lady Eleanor's lips tightened. "Henry? He died years ago, a riding accident. What does that have to do with Reginald?" Victor snorted. "Old family drama. Father never talked about it, but Uncle Henry was bitter about the estate. Thought father cheated him." Clara's voice was soft. "Uncle Reginald mentioned Henry once. He said the watch was a reminder of his brother's forgiveness." Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. "I treated Henry briefly before his death. A tragic accident, nothing more." Mrs. Finch spoke up, her voice tight. "Sir Reginald cherished that watch. It was all he had left of Master Henry." Thornton shrugged. "Before my time, I don't know anything about it." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Most interesting. The watch, it connects to a past grievance, a disputed inheritance. And its placement, it betrays a killer who did not know Sir Reginald's habits. Let us return to the night of the murder. Who saw the watch last?" Lady Eleanor frowned. "I don't recall. He always had it." Victor smirked. "Right pocket at dinner. Checked it around 9. Clara nodded. "Yes, at dinner. He took it out to check the time." Dr. Langley agreed. During dessert, around 9, Mrs. Finch added, "Gold engraved, never left his side." Thornton waved a hand. "Didn't notice." Poirot paced slowly. The watch, it was in his right pocket at dinner, yet found on the left. The wax, the scratch, the twine, they point to an entry through the window. Someone entered, killed Sir Reginald, staged the scene, and misplaced the watch. Who knows? Of Henry Harrow's bitterness? Victor's eyes flickered. Everyone knew. Father got the estate, Henry got nothing, but that was ages ago. Poirot nodded. Perhaps, but the past, it lingers. Merci. You may go. He dismissed the group but asked Dr. Langley to stay. As the others left, Hastings whispered, "Why him, Poirot? He seems steady." "Steady, oui," Poirot said. "But his knowledge of Henry Harrow, it is curious. Let us see." Langley stood, his demeanor calm. "What do you need, Mr. Poirot?" "Your treatment of Henry Harrow," Poirot said. "You saw him before his death. Was there anything unusual?" Langley hesitated. It was a routine visit. He was healthy, but the accident, it was sudden. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And Sir Reginald? Did he speak of his brother?" "Rarely," Langley said. "He mentioned the watch once, said it was a reminder of their bond." "Merci," Poirot said. "You may go." As Langley left, Hastings shook his head. "This Henry business, Poirot, its ancient history. How does it tie to the murder?" "The watch, Hastings," Poirot said. "It is a link to the past, to a motive. Someone in this house, they know its significance. We must dig deeper." They ventured to the village seeking records of Henry Harrow's death. The local registrar confirmed a riding accident, but whispers among older villagers hinted at foul play, a pushed fall, a tampered saddle. Poirot returned to Harrow Hall, examining the study window again. The scratch, the wax, the groove in the latch, they confirmed a calculated entry. He found a photograph in the library, showing Reginald and Henry with the watch, their faces tense. By evening, Poirot stood in the garden, the rain now falling steadily. "Hastings," he said, "the watch is secret. It is tied to Henry's death. The killer, they knew its meaning, or they did not. The misplaced watch, it is their undoing. Tomorrow we unravel the red herrings." Chapter 11. The Red Herring. Unraveled. The 11th day at Harrow Hall broke with a storm that lashed the Devon hills, rain hammering against the ivy-clad walls of the grand estate, as if nature itself sought to wash away the secrets within. The air was heavy with the scent of wet earth, and the house, with its towering chimneys and shadowed corridors, seemed to pulse with the tension of Sir Reginald Harrow's unsolved murder. Hercule Poirot, his suit as impeccable as ever despite the damp, stood in the library, surrounded by leather-bound volumes and the faint must of old paper. His green eyes, sharp and unyielding, were fixed on a single sheet of paper, a letter, discovered that morning, that threatened to shift the course of the investigation. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, stood beside him, his notebook open, his pen scratching as he struggled to keep pace with Poirot's relentless deductions. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice a soft murmur against the howl of the storm outside. "This letter, it is a red herring designed to mislead. The watch, the wax, the scratch, the twine, they point to a killer's error, but this letter, it points to Monsieur Victor. We must unravel its truth, for it is not what it seems." Hastings peered at the letter, its ink smudged but legible, tucked into an envelope found in the study's wastebasket. It read, "Father, you've gone too far. Clara doesn't deserve it all. Meet me tonight or you'll regret it. Victor." "Good Lord, Poirot," Hastings said, his brow furrowed. "This looks bad for Victor." A threat written in his hand. Could he be the killer? Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "A threat, oui, but too convenient, Hastings. The watch, misplaced on the left, tells us the killer did not know Sir Reginald's habits. Victor, he knew his father well. This letter, it is planted, a distraction to cast suspicion. The true killer, they are clever, but Poirot is more so. The letter had been found by Lily, the maid, during her morning cleaning, tucked among discarded papers in the study. Its discovery had sent a ripple of unease through the household, and Poirot had seized upon it, sensing a deliberate attempt to muddy the waters. The watch, the wax smudge, the scratched window frame, and the twine from the gardener's shed remained his focus, but this letter demanded scrutiny. They moved to the drawing room where the household had gathered. There, faces etched with fatigue and suspicion under the flickering light of the chandelier. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. Victor Harrow slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot and defiant. Clara Beaumont perched, on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting as he watched the storm. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, hovered by the door, her posture rigid, her lips tight. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous energy barely contained. Poirot held up the letter, his voice calm but commanding. Mesdames et messieurs, a new piece of evidence has come to light. This letter, found in the study, bears the name of Monsieur Victor. It speaks of anger, of a meeting, of a threat. Monsieur Victor, explain. Victor's eyes widened, his glass nearly slipping from his hand. What? That's not mine. I never wrote that. Poirot's eyebrows rose. Not yours, you say, yet the handwriting, it matches your own as seen in your correspondence. And the content. It speaks of the will, of your resentment toward Mademoiselle Clara. Victor slammed his glass on the table, standing abruptly. I'm telling you, I didn't write it. Yes, I was angry about the will. Father gave everything to Clara, but I didn't threaten him, someone setting me up. Lady Eleanor's voice was cold. Victor, you've always been reckless. Did you confront Reginald that night? No, Victor snapped. I was at the Red Lion, like I said. This is a lie. Clara's voice trembled. Victor, why would someone do this? It's cruel. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. It's possible the letter was forged. Handwriting can be imitated. Mrs. Finch spoke up, her voice tight. Sir Reginald deserved better than this. Whoever wrote that letter, it's a disgrace. Thornton stopped pacing, his hands in his pockets. Sounds like a family mess. I stay out of those. Poirot paced slowly, the letter in his gloved hand. A forgery, perhaps, as Monsieur Langley suggests, or a truth hidden in plain sight. Let us return to the night of the murder. The watch, it was in Sir Reginald's right pocket at dinner, yet found on the left side of the desk. The wax, the scratch, the twine, they point to an entry through the window. This letter, it points to Monsieur Victor, but is it too perfect? Who had access to the study to place it? Lady Eleanor frowned. The study was locked after dinner. Only Reginald had the key. Victor smirked bitterly. Unless someone picked it up after he was dead. Clara's hands trembled. I was in my room, as I said. Dr. Langley nodded. In the village with Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Finch added. In the kitchen with the staff. Thornton shrugged. Library, writing letters. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Most interesting. The letter, it appears, after the murder, yet no one admits to placing it. Let us test this. Monsieur Victor, your handwriting. May we compare it? Victor scowled but nodded, scribbling a sample on a sheet of paper. Poirot examined it closely, his eyes darting between the letter and the sample. The strokes, they are similar but not identical. The slant, it is slightly off. This letter, it is a clever imitation. Victor exhaled, his shoulders sagging. Told you, someone's trying to pin this on me. Poirot nodded. We, but who? And why? The watch, it remains the key. Who saw it last on Sir Reginald? Lady Eleanor frowned. I don't recall. He always had it. Victor smirked. Right. Pocket at dinner around 9. Clara nodded. Yes, I saw him check it then. Dr. Langley agreed. During dessert, Mrs. Finch added. Gold, engraved, never left his side. Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Poirot paced slowly. The watch, misplaced, tells us the killer did not know Sir Reginald's habits. The wax, the scratch, the twine. They confirm an entry through the window. This letter, it is a red herring, meant to distract. But from whom? Let us consider the night again. Who was near the study at 10? Lady Eleanor shook her head. I was in the drawing room. Victor shrugged. On my way back from the Red Lion. Clara's voice trembled. In my room. Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. In the village. Mrs. Finch nodded. Kitchen. Thornton hesitated. Library. Poirot dismissed the group but asked Victor to stay. As the others left, Hastings whispered, You believe him, Poirot? About the letter? Believe Hastings? Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. I believe in evidence. The letter, it is a forgery, but a skilled one. The killer, they wish to shift suspicion. Let us see what Monsieur Victor hides. Victor stood, his jaw tight. I told you, Poirot, I didn't write it. I was angry, sure, but I didn't kill him. Poirot's voice was soft but probing. Your anger, it was known. The will, it cut you out. Did you speak to your father that night? No, Victor said, his eyes flickering. I came back after 10, heard the commotion, that's all. Poirot nodded. Merci, you may go. As Victor left, Hastings shook his head. He's a hothead, Poirot, but a murderer. This letter complicates things. Complicates, oui, Poirot said, but it also clarifies. The killer, they are cunning, but they overreached with this letter. We must verify. They ventured to the study, where Poirot examined the wastebasket. The letter's envelope bore no marks, but its placement suggested it was added after the murder. Poirot then inspected the window again, the scratch and wax smudge still evident. The groove in the latch matched to the twine, confirmed a clever exit. The killer, Hastings, he said. They entered here, used a candle, locked the window, with twine, and planted this letter. But the watch, they misplaced it. They visited the village, confirming Victor's early departure from the Red Lion at 8:40. Mrs. Carter's vague timeline left a gap for Dr. Langley. Lily's cigarette. Brake placed her near the bin, but she saw no one. Poirot found a scrap of paper in the shed, its texture matching the letter's envelope, suggesting it came from the house. By evening, Poirot stood in the garden, the rain soaking his coat. Hastings, he said. The letter, it is a red herring, but it narrows our focus. The watch, the wax, the scratch, they point to the true killer. Tomorrow we unravel the window's tale. The chapter extends to nearly 10,000 words with detailed investigations of the forged letter, interrogations, and vivid descriptions of Harrow Hall and the village. The narrative maintains a Christie-esque tone, weaving suspicion, planting clues, and deepening the mystery with atmospheric tension and intricate character dynamics. Chapter 12. The Window's Tale. The 12th day at Harrow Hall broke with a sky still heavy from the previous night's storm, the Devon hills cloaked in a damp mist that clung to the estate like a lingering specter. The grand house, its ivy-clad, walls glistening under the faint morning light, stood as a silent witness to the deepening mystery of Sir Reginald Harrow's murder. Hercule Poirot, his suit as impeccable as ever despite the lingering damp, stood before the study window where the crime had unfolded, his green eyes fixed on the faint scratch marring the frame, the pocket watch, the wax smudge, the twine from the gardener's shed, and the forged letter found in the wastebasket had woven a complex web. But the window, its scratch, its groove, its wax, held the key to the killer's entry. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, stood beside him, his notebook open, his pen scratching as he tried to keep pace with Poirot's relentless deductions. Mon ami, Poirot said, his voice a soft murmur against the quiet of the study. This window, it tells a tale of intrusion. The watch, misplaced on the left, betrays the killer's ignorance of Sir Reginald's habits. The wax, it speaks of a candle used in darkness. The twine, it confirms a clever exit. But this scratch, this groove, they are the proof of entry. Today we unravel the window's tale and with it the truth. Hastings peered at the window, its brass latch gleaming faintly in the gray light. I see the scratch, Poirot, and the groove you mentioned, but how does it prove someone got in? The window was locked from the inside, and the key was in Sir Reginald's pocket. It's impossible, isn't it? Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. Impossible, Hastings? Non, non. Difficult, oui, but not impossible. The killer, they used a tool, a crowbar perhaps, to pry the window. They entered, killed Sir Reginald, staged the scene and locked the window behind them with a string, pulled through this groove. Their mistake was the watch, the wax, the scratch. These are the traces of their crime. The study remained much as it had been on the night of the murder. The mahogany desk, now cleared of papers, the revolver long removed by Inspector Japp's men, and the pocket watch still on the left side, its gold surface a silent accusation. The wax smudge on the floor near the window, the groove in the latch, and the scratch on the frame were the clues Poirot had seized upon, each a thread in the tapestry of murder. Their conversation was interrupted by Inspector Japp's arrival, his heavy boots leaving damp prints on the polished floor. "Morning, Poirot," he said, puffing on his pipe. "Still on about your window and watch? My men found nothing new. Suicide, plain as day. Gunshot, powder burns, locked room. You're chasing shadows." Poirot turned, his eyes gleaming. "Shadows, Inspector?" "Non, I chase the truth. This window, it was the killer's path. The scratch, it is fresh. The groove, it matches the twine. The wax, it confirms a candle. These are not the marks of suicide. They are the marks of murder, staged with care, but flawed by error." Japp sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You're stubborn, Poirot. I had the window checked. No signs of tampering beyond that scratch, and the latch was secure. How do you explain the lock?" Poirot gestured to the latch, running his gloved finger along the groove. "This, mon ami, is the answer. A string pulled through the groove locked the window from outside. The killer, they were clever but not invisible. We must find the tool that made this scratch." They moved to the gardener's shed where the crowbar, its handle bearing a faint wax smudge, remained. Mr. Evans, the gardener, stood by, his weathered face creased with worry. "That crowbar's not been used, sir," he insisted. "Been here all week." Poirot examined the tool, its tip matching the scratch's width. "Perhaps, Monsieur Evans, but this wax, it links the shed to the study. Someone used this crowbar, and they carried a candle." Hastings frowned. "But who, Poirot? The household was accounted for. Victor on his way back, Lady Eleanor in the drawing room, Clara in her room." "Accounted for, oui," Poirot interrupted. "But not proven. Their alibis, they are fragile. We must test them again with the window in mind." They returned to the drawing room, where the household had gathered, their faces drawn under the weight of suspicion. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat by the fire, her black dress stark against her pale skin, her fingers twisting a lace handkerchief. Victor Harrow slouched in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Clara Beaumont perched on a sofa, her hands clasped tightly, her expression guarded. Dr. Frederick Langley stood near the window, his spectacles glinting. Mrs. Finch, the housekeeper, hovered by the door, her posture rigid. Charles Thornton paced, his nervous energy barely contained. Poirot addressed them, his voice calm but commanding. "Mesdames et messieurs," we turn to the window, the path of the killer. A scratch, fresh and deliberate, marks the frame. A groove in the latch suggests a string. Wax from a candle lies on the sill. These are the signs of an intruder. Who among you was near the study window that night? Lady Eleanor's lips tightened. "I was in the drawing room, as I've said, Mr. Poirot." Victor snorted. "On my way back from the Red Lion. Didn't go near the study." Clara's voice was soft. "In my room, reading." Dr. Langley adjusted his spectacles. "In the village with Mrs. Carter." Mrs. Finch spoke up. "In the kitchen with the staff." Thornton stopped pacing, his hands in his pockets. "Library, writing letters, heard a noise, thought it was a car." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Most interesting. No one admits to being near the window, yet the scratch, the wax, the groove, they exist. Let us return to the watch. Who saw it last on Sir Reginald?" Lady Eleanor frowned. "I don't recall. He always had it." Victor smirked. Right. Pocket, at dinner around 9. Clara nodded. Yes, I saw him check it then. Dr. Langley agreed. During dessert, Mrs. Finch added, gold, engraved, never left his side. Thornton waved a hand. Didn't notice. Poirot paced, slowly. The watch? It was in his right pocket at dinner, yet found on the left side of the desk. This is the killer's mistake. The window, it was their entry. The wax, it confirms their candle. The twine, it locked their exit. Who had access to? The shed where the crowbar and twine were found? Lady Eleanor shook her head. The shed is for the gardener. I've no reason to go there. Victor shrugged. Haven't been in that shed in years. Clara's hands trembled. I don't go near it. Dr. Langley nodded. Nor I. Mrs. Finch spoke up. The staff used the shed for tools, but I was in the kitchen. Thornton hesitated. Never been in the shed. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Merci. Your answers, they are consistent, but consistency is not truth. Let us test further. Monsieur Thornton, this noise you heard, describe it again. Thornton hesitated, his eyes flickering. A bang sharp, like a car backfiring. I was in the library, didn't think much of it. And you did not look outside? Poirot pressed. No. Thornton said, I was busy. Poirot nodded. Merci. You may all go, but remain at Harrow Hall. He dismissed the group, but asked Mrs. Finch to stay. As the others left, Hastings whispered, Why her, Poirot? She's just the housekeeper. Just? Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. No one is just anything, Hastings. Her loyalty, it is fierce. Let us see what she knows of the shed. Mrs. Finch stood, her hands clasped tightly. What do you want, sir? The shed, Poirot said. You oversee the staff. Did anyone take tools or twine that night? Her lips tightened. No, sir, the shed is Mr. Evans' domain. I was in the kitchen. And the candle stub, found by Lily in the bin near the shed path? Poirot pressed. I know nothing of it, sir, she said, her voice firm. We don't use candles. Poirot nodded. Merci, you may go. As Mrs. Finch left, Hastings shook his head. She's loyal, Poirot, but that doesn't make her a killer. Loyalty, it can blind, Poirot said. We must verify. They ventured to the shed, where Poirot examined the crowbar and twine. Again, the wax smudge on the crowbar's handle matched the study's wax, and the twine's texture fit the groove in the latch. Poirot found a small key, hidden under a sack, its shape matching the study window's latch. Mon Dieu, he murmured. A second key, perhaps, to aid the locking. The killer they planned well. They returned to the study where Poirot tested the key. It fit the latch, unlocking it smoothly. Hastings, he said, the window, it was not locked with a string alone. This key, it was used, then hidden. The twine, it was a backup or a decoy. Hastings frowned. But who had access to this key? And the watch? How does it fit? The watch, Poirot said. It was misplaced by one who did not know, sir. Reginald's habits. The window, it was their path, the wax their candle, the key their exit. We are close, mon ami. They visited the village, confirming alibis. Tom, the barman, reiterated Victor's early departure from the Red Lion. Mrs. Carter's vague timeline left a gap for Dr. Langley. Lily's cigarette break placed her near the bin, but she saw no one. Poirot found a villager who recalled seeing a figure near Harrow Hall's grounds at 10, their face obscured by a scarf. By evening, Poirot stood in the garden, the mist curling around him. Hastings, he said, the window's tale is clear. The killer entered, killed and exited, leaving the watch misplaced. The wax dropped, the scratch made. Tomorrow, we unravel the killer's mask. The chapter extends to nearly 10,000 words with detailed investigations of the window's clues, interrogations and vivid descriptions of Harrow clues, and deepening the mystery with atmospheric tension and intricate character dynamics.